Hey, welcome to the Sawyer meta. I know why you're here. You want to figure out which operator is going to give you the biggest advantage when you're playing Siege, to either win more rounds or to top the leaderboard. Or you might be here because you want to know who the most rat operator is. Don't worry, by the end of this video, both of those questions will be answered. But check it out, we all have a different number of friends. At one point, I was playing Siege all by myself. Now I'm in a place where my problem is that I have 7 or 8 friends to play Siege with, and some of them have to wait into the party and just listen to us have fun until one of us decides that it's time to go to bed. So to make sure to serve the entire viewership, I have to kind of go over which operator is good for solo queue and which one is good for playing in a team on both attack and defense. So imagine you're solo queuing. You might actually have a team that you play with usually, but they're just not available, or maybe you're the odd man out and you've got to go run one by yourself. In this case, what you're looking for in an operator is someone that can both help you win the game, top the leaderboard, and kind of play independently, but also allow the team to work off of. An operator that checks all of those boxes is going to be Buck. On his primary weapon, if you throw the extended barrel on it, his skeleton key basically becomes a secondary shotgun that works just about as well as any of the automatic shotguns in the game. To win more rounds and subsequently more games, what you're going to have to do in solo queue is turn the tides. And what that means is you're going to have to clutch out some rounds. If you find yourself in a 1v3 situation on attack, it's likely that the defenders probably have 1 submachine gun, 1 shotgun, and 1 assault rifle. Chances are at least one defender is definitely going to have an advantage as far as distance and the type of weapon that they're using on any of the rooms that you go into. And so how do you counter that? Well, there's 2 ways. One of which is taking the room that they're in and changing the amount of distance they have. Imagine a mute has a shotgun inside of a tiny room. Well, you might want to open up a soft wall or a hard wall. And with Buck, you could do either one of those pretty quickly. Then you're taking an assault rifle to a long distance fight and they have to play with the shotgun. The second way to counter this is just by having different primary weapons yourself. And Buck is really the only one in the game other than Smoke that you could even consider has 2 primary weapons at one time. So Buck is a pretty obvious choice when it comes to solo queuing. Okay, so who's the best operator when you're not solo queuing? What about when you're playing in a team? I'm actually going to pick an operator that has a negative win delta. And the reason why is because I think this operator is actually utilized pretty incorrectly amongst 90% of the community. Remember, 90% of Siege players are Platinum and below, and you could really tell that a lot of these operators that are more difficult to use aren't being used at all, and if they are, they're usually being used incorrectly. But what if there was a character out there that could help your team immensely that you could just probably be playing a little bit better and subsequently bring your entire team up 2-3 ranks just by learning how to play this one operator? This operator is Zero. Zero's win delta is super deceptive. And the reason why is because with, again, 90% of the entire community, they don't get on the drones after they die, they don't get on the cameras after they die, and then you take a character that's utility is all information based, and you essentially rob them of any of that because no one's really even using it. A lot of Zero players don't even get any cameras up, they're only playing because they like that assault rifle. So once you take that attacking gadget away, and you basically trade it in for an assault rifle, of course you're going to lose more. But if he's used correctly, you can literally take your team up 3-4 ranks just by learning how to play Zero correctly. Once they learn how to use the information and the callouts, you start forcing them to get on the drones, you start forcing them to get on the cameras. All of a sudden, you feel like you always know where someone's coming from on attack. And I don't know if you know this or not, but the attackers have way better weapons than the defenders. The defenders just have traps and gadgets and things like that that compensate for their bad guns. Having a Zero on your team essentially puts you in a position where you always know where they're coming from and you have a better gun. Don't sleep on this operator, he can make a difference on your team. Plus with that assault rifle, you'll definitely be climbing up the leaderboards. Alright, on to defense. Who's the best solo queue operator on defense? Well, it's gotta be Smoke. He's the best defense operator in the game. He's picked 90% of the time in Pro League. He can do map control and the attackers can do absolutely nothing about it until he runs out of smoke. I want you to think about the length of a ranked match, and then I want you to think about how long Smoke's canisters last. He can control an entire section of the map for basically the entire game, which forces the attackers to go do something that they didn't want to. He could also throw them up in the roof, which stops the vert play. He's got 2 really good guns, and in general, having a shotgun with a really good SMG kind of feels like you have 2 primary weapons. So Smoke is definitely going to be the solo queue operator that's going to make or break a lot of these games. As an added bonus, I want to tell you that if you pick Rook, you have a higher chance of winning than if you pick any other operator in the game. Having that extra health and being able to self-revive is a huge difference when it comes to winning. On the other hand, I don't find Rook very fun to play. He's really slow, and his guns feel like they don't have a whole lot of kick to them. So like most people, you might find yourself not really wanting to play him, and so that's why he kind of loses out to this spot, but he's definitely someone you shouldn't be just ignoring. The operator that you're going to need on every single team is going to be an entry denial. But you have a lot of choices when it comes to entry denial. You have a bandit, you have a cade, you have a mute, but who I think is the best and who really wins out this spot for me is mute, because not only can he do entry denial, but he can also stop the information and the drones from coming in. So he has a lot of versatility when it comes to this, and he also has a primary shotgun and a secondary SMG, which is, again, like having two primary weapons in the game. The biggest problem with playing mute, though, is that you're going to get pigeonholed super hard. As soon as your team doesn't have a mute, they're basically forcing you to go back to him and making you play him. And he's not a super fun operator to play. Some people may disagree with that, but I think generally he's not like the most fun operator to play. Okay, so you stuck around to the end, and we're just going to talk about who the most rat operators in the game is. First of all, Warden. Warden. He's such a rat. People are trading in an entire defender gadget so that maybe they don't get flashbanged. But the reality is that everyone just wants to play with this no recoil weapon that has a 1.5 scope because they're obsessed with getting headshots. The biggest rat operator on attack is going to be Amaru. This is usually players that are jumping right into the building trying to keep people on surprise. And the reality is that Amaru players aren't really as good as they think they are, and half of the time they're going in and not getting anyone, and the other half of the time they're getting, one or two people and not taking out any of the gadgets, and then they're complaining to you why you're not on top of the leaderboard like they are, even though they haven't done anything to help you with the objective whatsoever. I personally hate both of these operators, but the reality is that they're actually pretty good, and if they weren't, they wouldn't get picked so much. And if they weren't so good, they probably wouldn't be the guys on top of the leaderboard all the time. And if you play on a team that's constantly on your ass about, hey, are you going to ever do anything or get any kills, you might want to switch to these two guys, because at least your team won't be constantly nagging you about playing the game like it's Call of Duty Team Deathmatch. If you're enjoying the content, go ahead and subscribe. I published 10 videos this week, and there's going to be a lot more to come. Can't wait to see you there. Keep shooting straight, folks.